All right, hello and welcome to the video for quiz 921 through 923. Let's go ahead and start with question 1 of 12. What is the Pythagorean theorem formula? So that one is pretty straightforward. So we can move on to 2. And if I'm going too fast, remember you can always pause the video in between questions. So for this one, the Pythagorean theorem can only be used on a certain type of triangle. Now I know this one is multiple choice when you click that pull down menu. So it's only good for a certain kind of triangle. What triangle is that? If you're not sure, then look back through some of the problems we've done, because there are many, many examples that we have done. All right, question 3, the Pythagorean theorem, in the Pythagorean theorem, the sum of the squares of the legs is equal to the square of the what? So remember, the legs are A and B. That other side is C, and it's another name for the longest side of a triangle. And it is always directly across from the right angle. So what is that word we are looking for? All right, this is question 4 out of 12. So for this question, which of the following points on the number line below best approximates the value of the negative square root of 7? So again, we are looking for an approximation here. It doesn't have to be exact, but it does need to be the one that is closest. So which one would be closest to the actual value? Again, this one is multiple choice, so you're either selecting A, point A, B, point B, C, point C, or D, point D. Question 5 of 12. A triangle has sides with lengths of 4 meters, 5 meters, and 7 meters. Is it a right triangle? So I will help you with this. You do need to, you're going to need to plug it into that Pythagorean theorem formula. So we have these two sides, which are the smaller sized and the largest length, which is the largest. Now remember, the longest is always the hypotenuse, which is C. 4 and 5 are the legs. It doesn't matter which one is A, which one is B. So let's call that one A. And let's call this one B. And if you plug into your formula, let's say you get something out like, let's say we get 55 equals 49. Is that true? Well, no, that's not true. So if it's not true, then it is not a right triangle. Now, if it's something that is true, let's say it comes out 55 equals 55, then yes, that would be true and it would be a right triangle. All right. Let's have a look at number 6 out of 12. So this says, if the height of the flagpole is 12 feet, find the length of the cable. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So you'll see right here that the cable is this side. You are given the height here, and you are given the measurement here. So I will tell you, remember that this cable that we have right here, this cable, that is the longest side. That is the hypotenuse. So I will write it here, if that helps. Now, based on what we know about the hypotenuse and the legs of the triangles, you should be able to plug this into the Pythagorean theorem and be good to go. Now, be careful because it's telling you to round your answer to the nearest tenth. The nearest tenth is going to be one place after the decimal. So let's say we have 4.786. We would round up to 4.8. It's only one after the decimal. All right, number 7, what is the length of the missing leg? This one's going to be a little bit different. So I will tell you for this, be careful and pay close attention to where you are plugging this in. It can only go in a certain spot of our equation. One of 2 spots is where we can plug in this A. It cannot go in for a certain letter because only the longest side can go in for that certain letter. But again, you can solve that using the Pythagorean theorem. All right, that takes us to question 8 out of 12. It says Molly wants to put a fence around an area. The fence will follow the diagram of the triangle shown below. How much fencing does Molly need? All right, so your first step here, step 1, is going to be to find the missing side length. So this is our missing side length. So you're going to do that first. 1, find missing side length. All right, we do have another step after that. So once we find the missing side length, we aren't good to go. Remember, we need to find out how much fencing she needs. Not just one length of the fencing, but the total amount of fencing all the way around the triangle. So how can we do that? Think about it. So again, we need to find that total amount of fencing, not just the one side. All right, moving on to question 9 of 12. All right, so it looks like it gives us a part A and a part B. So for the first one, it gives you the square root of D, and it says that it is equal to 10. So this one you're going to kind of work backwards and think about what can we do to undo the square root. So think about that. And then in the second part, part B, it says to find the values of x in the given, or I'm sorry, in the equation given below. So it's telling us x squared equals 144. So that means, let's say we plugged in 5 for x. Now 5 is not an option as you see, but I don't want to do one that actually is an option. So let's say 5 was an option. Okay, so then we would plug in 5 for x. Well, 5 squared is 25. So 25 does not equal 144. So I would know that 5 is not my option. That is not correct. So what number, when we multiply it by itself or when we square it, equals 144? Or I guess we could say what number or numbers. All right, question 10. An escalator runs from the first floor of a shopping mall to the second floor. The length of the escalator is 30 feet and the distance between the floors is 12 feet. Find the distance from the base of the escalator to the point on the first floor directly below the top of the escalator. Round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. All right, so again, if you look at the diagram here that's made, you can see that this diagram makes a right triangle. And we know how to solve for a right triangle, right? We just have to plug into that Pythagorean theorem. Now they give you this length and they give you this length. So you need to figure out, all right, well, we know we can plug into the Pythagorean theorem, but which side goes with which? Now remember, we have this side that is directly opposite of the right angle. That is the hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse can only be plugged in for a certain letter. So keep that in mind when you are solving this problem. All right, question 11. This one's pretty straightforward. All we need to do is find the square root of 144. So if you have a TI-34 calculator, like the kind we use at school, all you have to do is push that radical sign, put in 144. You have to make sure you scroll out from under that radical sign before you hit enter. Now, if you don't have a calculator, I'm not sure what you've been doing this long without one. Now, it's fine if you don't have a TI-34, but if you've just been sitting around without a calculator, that's bad news. So I would send you to Desmos.com. That's DESMOS. So that's an online calculator that's really good. It's really reliable. You're going to want to look for the scientific. So the Desmos Scientific Calculator online, that's going to be a good one for you to use if you don't have that TI-34 at home. All right, and the last one, question 12 of 12, it says right triangle LMN is shown. What is the length of the hypotenuse x of triangle LMN? Round your answer to 3 decimal places. All right, well, we know how to do this. This is what we've been doing all along. Now, I will remind you, it says to round your answer to 3 decimal places. So, let's say we have, let's say our answer is 20.39871. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be. If you get any answer that's less than 40, you've done something wrong, because we have our hypotenuse here that we need to find, and remember the hypotenuse is always the longest side. So this is an absolutely outrageous number that I'm using for an example. It would never be correct. All right, so if we're rounding 3 decimal places, that means the cutoff is here. So we would have 20.39. That 7 makes that 8 round up to a 9. All right. So that is all for this quiz. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I will be on office hours too. If you have anything that you would like to ask me, maybe because it's difficult to ask in an email, you can feel free to just pop into my office hours. So that's all for this one.